Have you ever asked yourself as a goat farmer whether you're benefiting from your goat enterprise, and because you have the numbers, that makes you think that you're managing your goat enterprise profitably? Because it's also important to understand that each goat that you have on the farm has a certain cost that you spend on it. Every goat that you have on the farm requires to be taken care of in terms of deworming it, in terms of feeding it, treating it in case of any infections and so on. So what I'm saying is, it's high time we started looking at productivity of each individual goat rather than looking at the numbers that you have on your enterprise. Because at the end of the day, the amount of profit that you get has to be distributed amongst all the goats that you have on your farm. That means that it is very important that you only rear or retain goats that are productive. Having said that, we need to look at some of the tools that will help you understand or evaluate yourself or evaluate your goat herd to see whether you're actually making profits. Accelerating genetic progress of our goat herd, there are a number of tools that we need to make use of. We need to make use of selection based on physical appearance of the goats, and we also need to make use of the records or the raw data that we keep capturing on a daily basis. Today, let's look at using reproduction performance to assess performance of your goats. In reproduction performance, we have a number of traits that we evaluate in order to understand if the actual numbers that we have on the farm are actually productive. So reproductive performance has around 3-4 traits that are very critical in assessing or analyzing performance or profitability of your herd. And profitability, here I look at genetic progress of the herd that is being accelerated through improved reproduction performance. What are the 3 or 4 traits that we look at when analyzing reproduction performance of your herd for consequent genetic progress? Number 1 is the number of kids that are produced by the does. Number of kids given birth to is one trait. The second one is number of kids weaned at around 90 to 100 days. The third reproduction performance trait is scrotal circumference. Scrotal circumference, this one looks at evaluating reproduction performance of the males. And the other factor that you need to look at, or the other trait that you also look at, is the maternal weaning weight of your does. Having mentioned them, let's now look at how each affects or impacts on genetic progress of your herd. Number 1, the number of kids produced is very important. because we want to enhance, or we want to accelerate multiplication of our goat herd. And one of the ways through which we can achieve that is by having a number of kids, or having more than one kid born per doe or per dam. So how do we assess, how do we evaluate that trait of number of kids born at a time? When you're looking at number of kids born, we need goats that produce more than one kid for us to be profitable. Remember, you are spending money on the mothers and also the kids, and maybe the bucks that you have on the farm. So it is very important that you only rear mothers that are giving birth to more than one kid. Our next choose, or an allowance, is only for the mothers that are giving birth for the first time. Remember, these mothers giving birth to one kid for the first time, it could be a cause that was brought by you as the farmer. More so, breeding goats when they are still young. It is important that we breed our goats when they have attained at least 12 months of age. At 12 months of age, we expect our goats to have attained a live weight of around 60 to 70% of the mature doe weight based on the breed. So number of kids born is a very important reproduction trait that you need to consider when looking at which does you need to retain on your farm as replacement stock. For example, if you have an average of kids born per doe that is beyond 1, then that means that on average your does are performing well. But it's also important to also consider carrying those does that are giving birth to a single kid. The only excuses could come in when these does are kidding for the first time. But if we have does that have kidded for more than once and they are still producing a single kid, those are the types of does that you need to consider carrying, because for us to be profitable, we need to have does that produce more than one kid. The second trait that affects or hinders genetic progress of the goat herd in as far as reproduction performance is concerned is the number of kids weaned at any one time. You can only evaluate that trait or performance of that trait if you are that farmer that actually does synchronized breeding. Because for you to understand that, or to evaluate that, or to measure that, you should have a number of kids being produced and then being weaned at the same time, or in relatively the same period of time. So if we are to consider which does to cull based on the number of kids weaned, then we are looking at those does that have lost their kids on the way. Remember, we are weaning off these kids at around 90 to 100 days, or at 3.5 months. So if we are weaning off our kids at 3.5 months, we expect the mothers to have carried or taken care of their kids until weaning off age. So we have mothers that have lost their kids, and when the reasons are based on them but not your management capacity, then those are some of the does that we need to cull off in order to enable accelerated genetic progress and in return increase profitability of our goat enterprise. Now at the same time, when you are looking at culling off which does based on the number of kids weaned, we are looking at those that maybe produced 2 kids and at 100 days they are remaining with a kid. Or we are looking at those does that produced kids, and these kids are malnourished at that stage or that age of 100 days. So those are some of the does that we need to call off, because we shall not keep spending money on those that are poor mothers. Then the third trait that we need to look at that affects reproduction performance is scrotal circumference. We have to understand that for us to accelerate genetic performance of the goat herd, we need to select for the best bucks on the farm. And for us to know our best kids that are going to be the bucks of tomorrow, we need to look at the scrotal circumference of the individual kids. Scrotal circumference means that you get a tape measure and measure off the scrotal circumference of each kid. And if you have, for example, if you have 10 male kids that you're evaluating, measure the scrotal circumference of each kid and then get to know which kids have the largest scrotal circumference. Evaluating scrotal circumference of our kids, we actually want to identify those male kids that will be our future serving bucks. We do want to have bucks that will improve the genetic composition of our goat herd. So we don't want to select bucks that are underperformers. Then the other trait that affects reproduction performance of your goat herd is the maternal weaning weight. Maternal weaning weight refers to the ability or the genetic difference that arises from the ability of the different mothers to wean off their kids at different weights. Maternal weaning weight of a good mother is for those mothers that have been able to wean off their kids at the highest weaning weight. Remember, when we are evaluating live weight or live weight performance of our kids, we need kids that put on 2.5 to 3 times their birth weight on weaning them, or at 100 days. So maternal weaning weight is an assessment to determine which mothers produce the highest amount of milk and which mothers are able to give their kids the best growth environment, or the environment that will enable them to put on the highest weight gain. So mothers with lower maternal weaning weights, or mothers that are producing kids with the lowest weaning weights, should also be called off because they are negatively impacting on genetic progress or profitability of our goat stock. Remember, as a goat entrepreneur, you want to maximize profitability of your investment. As a recap, we have said it is possible to accelerate genetic progress of your goat herd, subsequently increase profitability of your herd through streamlining reproductive performance of your goat herd. And we have said reproductive performance is affected by majorly 3 or 4 traits. The number of kids born is one factor, and we are saying we need to maximize kidding rate. We need to have those that produce more than 1 kid. We are also saying that number of kids weaned is another important reproduction performance trait, because we do want those that actually carry their kids to weaning age. We don't want those that keep losing their kids on the way before they are weaned. Then the other factor, or the other trait that we are considering, or that we want to look at, or that we talked about, is the scrotal circumference of your kids. Scrotal circumference of your male kids is also important, because we said a male goat contributes 50% to the genetic progress of your entire herd, depending on the number of does that you gave it. If you want to accelerate genetic progress of your herd, then you need to select for male kids that have the largest scrotal circumference, because there is a direct correlation between growth rates and scrotal circumference of the fathers of those kids. So always select for scrotal circumference of your male kids. In improving profitability and genetic progress of your herd, it is always important that you should be following a breeding objective when selecting the type of does and the type of bucks that you should be rearing on your farm.